In the age of social media, it's becoming easier and easier to find ways to compare ourselves to other people. Whether it's how spiritually in tune they are, how enlightened they seem to be, how rich they seem to be, or how sexy or hot their bodies seem to look. So, what can we do to help mitigate this tendency to compare ourselves to other people, especially within the realm of spirituality? We'll go through 3 ways that could possibly help you to mitigate it. Let's talk about it on Third Eyesight. My name is Juan Francisco, and I'm a psychic medium and tarot card reader. I've always been curious about the supernatural, the paranormal, and psychic abilities, and I'm here to share my stories and interview folks who want to share their own stories with us. Let's get to it. Hello, everybody. I just want to first say thank you for listening to the podcast. I have seen some great download numbers, and I would really love to hit 1,000 downloads of the podcast, and I'm almost there. It may take a little while, but I would love for you to share this podcast with folks that you think would be interested in it. And please leave reviews. I know I say it at the end of every episode of the podcast, but please leave reviews if you like the podcast. It helps me reach new people. It helps me reach new people to interview, to bring on the podcast for you to listen to. It would help a lot. So just want to say that up front, and just a major thank you for your support and for everything you do to support me and Third Eyesight. So today's topic has been on my mind for a very, very long time. Like I've said, I often will write ideas down and take note of them for future podcast episodes. And I probably wrote this one down half a year ago, maybe a little more than half a year ago. Now I finally get to talk about it. And I actually put together an outline so I don't stray too far away from the topic. But let's see how that works, if it works at all. Let's see what happens. So, self-comparison in the spiritual world. And when I say spiritual world, I mean, I guess what I'm involved in, it's, spirituality is such a vague term, but I think it encompasses the religions of the world as well as folks who are not religious but believe in a higher power. So when I say spiritual world, the spiritual sector, I when I say that in this episode, I am specifically talking about non-religious people who are not part of a religion. But you know what? I wanted to focus on what people have traditionally called the New Age culture. And I think it's a wonderful phrase and wonderful term, but I don't think it encapsulates everybody's belief. So whether you are part of a religion, you identify with a religion and you follow it, and you are religious, or you are not part of a religion, but you still consider yourself spiritual, this podcast is for you. So I'm going to reframe my original intention. This is just for anybody. But I particularly am going to talk about on social media, seeing psychic mediums, psychic readers, other people that are part more of in the non-religious spiritual sector, and how we compare ourselves to them. But take what resonates with you, leave the rest if you need to. So I think I have personally experienced a vibe out there in the spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual world, spiritual sector, where some people, not a lot of people, but there are some people I've come across on social media or have read about or have seen them make comments about this. There's this vibe sometimes of I'm spiritually better than you because I have this practice, or I'm spiritually better than you because I have this awareness that you don't. And I think it's a very isolating belief. I don't think there's anything wrong with recognizing our own enlightenment, our own path to enlightenment, or how far we've come along on that journey of enlightenment or towards enlightenment. But I have a problem when people make it seem like they are better than you because, not everyone's going to like this. I'm better than you because I play my sound bowls every day and I'm always connected to God. I'm always connected to spirit. I meditate an hour every day and therefore I'm better than you. It's not about being better than people. I think it's just about what they should really be saying is I have a different practice than you do, and maybe you need this practice. Maybe you can learn from me, and I'm open to teaching you. I'm open to sharing it with you. If it doesn't resonate with you, it's okay. Ooh, summer is here because the motorcycles are out and about, or as they say, the fart cars. The cars with the loud. It's been happening a lot in my neighborhood. Anyways, back to my outline for the episode that I have to keep me structured and keep me within the topic of the episode. There's nothing wrong with imparting, why did I say it that way? Imparting knowledge or information on ways to ground ourselves, to meditate, to connect to the other side, to connect with God, your higher power. But having it come from a place of excited to share it rather than I'm better than you, so let me teach you. And about being better than other people, it's not about that. It shouldn't be about that. That's my personal opinion. And I think sometimes people can give off this vibe that they are at a higher plane than other people. Well, here's the thing. Do I believe that some people are living in a higher vibration than other people? Absolutely. I do believe that. I do believe there are people who live at a lower vibration because they are giving into addiction, and addiction is a disease. But I do believe that addiction comes from a place of fear. Anything that comes from a place of fear is working in a lower vibration. And a lot of the times, most of the times, people working in that lower vibration or living in that lower vibration, they need help. They need love and support. And then there's other people who are very malicious and maybe they don't want the help and they know what they're doing and they want to keep doing it. So I do believe there is such a thing as living a lower vibration versus a higher vibration. But I don't think that makes someone less worthy than another person, less worthy of time and respect than another person. Of course, there are certain situations where we have to set boundaries with people who live in a lower vibration in a way that's harming other people. And you can make that judgment call as to whether someone who is mean to other people has the same worth and value on this planet as other people. I believe everyone is worth being here on this planet because they were born into this planet. That's just my personal opinion. So therefore, if I or someone else wants to impart knowledge on how to live at a higher vibration, it should come from this intention of wanting to see a future world, a future humanity that were more of us, in which more of us is living at a higher vibration, not from a place of, look at how much I know, let me teach you. I think you get what I'm saying. So I do want to go into the reasons we self-compare, because it's easy when we see those folks on Instagram and we're starting on our journey and we see them seeming to be happy and they have it all and they're enlightened. It's easy to compare ourselves to them and see where our faults are and what we're missing out on, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go through 3 reasons we self-compare. 3 reasons that you might be self-comparing. And then I'm going to end the podcast episode with 3 ways to help us let go of self-comparison, of spiritual self-comparison. So stick around for that. So reasons we may be self-comparing. Number 1, reward systems in our culture, in our childhood. Growing up, maybe we were publicly praised for doing things like getting good grades. There's nothing wrong with that. But maybe for some of us, we took that to heart and made the grades we got. We let it determine our value as a child, our value as a son, as a daughter. Reward systems, doing something for the sake of getting a reward rather than for the sake of the thing. Doing something creative because we want to get recognized for it and get famous, and not because we enjoy the creative thing. there's not as much soul in that. Doing a nice thing for someone else just because we want them to do something nice for us, not because it comes from the heart, because we genuinely want to look out for our fellow person. Living in a culture of reward systems, or growing up and being used to reward systems, may get us used to being praised or getting something in return for good deeds. So is spirituality. And I'm going to go into religion in just a moment as number 2 reason we may self-compare. With spirituality, perhaps we apply that reward system to spirituality. Like, if I'm here being a good person, then nothing bad can happen to me. If I'm being a good person, only good things are going to always happen to me. I do believe that we attract to us what we put out there, but life also happens. And so when we're on social media and we feel like we're being the best person we can be, working or living at a higher vibration, and then life stinks and life happens to us, but we see people on social media sitting on mountaintops with a sound bowl, being nomads, and they seem to be living the life and they're happy all the time, and they speak so calmly and peacefully all the time. And then we think, why can't my life look like that? I'm here being a good person. Because then we see life as just being purely transactional. And we start to see social media as a complete reality when it's not. Because most people only put up the wins in their life. Life stinks for... that's a very pessimistic statement, but life stinks sometimes. And life stinks sometimes for everybody on this planet. No one is immune from that. I believe we were born into this life, into these bodies, to feel some discomfort so we can learn something about ourselves. That's my personal belief. So no one's immune from life's hardships or annoyances. Number 2 reason, so the first thing was reward systems and seeing life as a transaction based on the good deeds we do. And that fueling some room, or fueling our desire to compare ourselves to other people who seem to have only good things happen to them. Number 2 reason we may be self-comparing is religion. I grew up with some Catholicism, and mostly Catholicism. And in Catholicism, there's a lot of pray every day to get into heaven, or do this to get a seat in heaven. There's a lot of focus on deeds and doing in the Catholic Church to earn some level of salvation. It's honestly still confusing to me, but I remember when I was a teenager and I was going through my born again Christian phase, because I was in the closet, I had internalized homophobia, I was trying to pray my own gay away, and I would pray. There was a time when I prayed the rosary every day, but it came from a place of fear, not from a place of actual devotion. I did love Mother Mary, and I did love God and Jesus, but I did it from a place of fear. And I'm not saying that's every Catholic experience, every Catholic person's experience, but I notice in the Catholic Church there is a lot of focus on deeds. And I do believe that the actions we commit in this world, in our lives, I believe in karma to a certain extent. But I think when we place so much pressure on how good we are being and the good things we're doing to a point where we want to use that to show off to other people. I remember growing up with some people in my Catholic community who seemed to want to show off what good Catholics they were. What a way to inspire comparison within a church community. And obviously that person, if someone is so braggadocious about their good deeds as a religious person, they're self-comparing themselves to other people at their church. And then what does that do to a child who sees that in that church community? A child who is very emotionally vulnerable, like I was. And I wasn't so much influenced to do what I did pray from this place of fear from someone else, who was, I don't remember someone like that, the type of person I just described. I don't remember someone like that having that much of an influence on me. All of my fears came from just the messages I heard from the church and Christianity about homosexuality and me internalizing that. But someone in a church community who focuses so much on how good they are and makes it their bragging right, that's going to fuel self-comparison amongst their peers in the church. Now, I'm not saying all religions have this thing. It's not every religion, but I do think that for some of us, not all of us, growing up in religions where there was a focus on doing good, and you get into heaven, or doing good, and you get recognized in the church community for it, some of us may take that to heart and therefore want to compare ourselves to other people who don't do as much church stuff, don't pray the rosary every day, don't pray the Our Father every day. Oh, they don't pray the Our Father every day? They must have a weak relationship with God. Well, we don't know that. So number 2 reason we may be self-comparing is our religious upbringing or the religious culture that we're in. Number 3 reason we may be self-comparing is just wanting to be as happy as other people seem to be. Key phrase is seem to be. We may be self-comparing, and this brings me back to what I was saying much earlier. We may be looking at people on social media who seem to have it all. They're making money. They're living on a mountaintop. I don't know why I'm obsessed with mountaintops. They have the partner. They have the child. Maybe they have the child or children. They have cute clothes. They look bohemian, and they burn white sage all the time, and they look like they always have a smile on their face, and they talk softly. And we're like, what the heck? When can I get that life? And why can I be like that? I'm here praying. I'm here meditating. Why? They seem to be happy. Take the most perfect looking person with the most perfect looking life on Instagram, and I bet you there's something that they struggle with, because that's just being human. It's just being human. I'll be very vulnerable. I am vulnerable sometimes on my Instagram, on my social media, about the things I go through. I just posted during Pride Weekend, the last weekend in June, something about my inner child and my struggles with Pride Weekend as an event. And I feel comfortable being vulnerable about that. But I don't post about everything on my Instagram. Even I mean, there are things that I think about day to day, once in a while, that really, sometimes they feel very debilitating because I'm still working through healing those parts of myself and healing from those life experiences. But what I'm trying to say with that is, I don't know, I hope this isn't the case, but if you're someone who looks at my Instagram and thinks, wow, he has it all, and he looks so happy, and things are perfect, and he has nice hair, whatever it might be. And yes, I feel grateful for what I have. Life is good. Life is good for me. I'm happy. There are things I would change, but I'm happy and I'm comfortable. I have food to eat, shelter. I have a beautiful dog that I love. But if I were to tell you that I have absolutely no struggles, that there is not a struggle in my life that debilitates me once in a while, I'd be lying to you. And I won't go into them because I think there's a certain extent to which I feel comfortable being vulnerable on social media. And if I were to go further than that, then I feel like I would be placing a burden on you folks who follow me. What am I trying to get out of it? So I'd rather be vulnerable about something on Instagram because I'm hoping it's going to help somebody else see something different about themselves in a beautiful way. If I were to just, and I used to do this, we think we've all been there, most of us, I used to just complain about things on social media and just vent. And then what does that do? It just brings down the energy. So I know my limits for how much to vent publicly. But yeah, life is good for me right now, but There are some things I think about that bring me down, 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 and I have to work with myself to bring me up, 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 up again. And I'm not going to post about those moments or those things. Not all the time, maybe once in a while. I mentioned this breakup I had earlier this year and how much it has helped me to change and grow. And I still am healing from that, but I'm not going to post about it. So next time you're on Instagram or social media, just remember that if you feel tempted to look at somebody's profile or images and videos and think, oh my God, what a perfect life, add on to the end of that thought, what a perfect life they seem to have, how happy they seem to be, because you really don't know what's going on through their head, what's going on in their lives, what fight they had with somebody that day, and yet they're still posting something with a big smile. You just never know these things. So that's the number 3 reason we may be self-comparing, is because we want to be as happy as other people seem to be. We have to remind ourselves that we really don't know someone's life until we really get to know them intimately and emotionally intimately. This is a really great segue into the 3 ways to help us let go, to help you let go of spiritual self-comparison. Because the first one, well, actually, no, it's the second one. Not a good segue. Forget that I said that. Number 1 reason, well, the number 2 reason would have been the good segue, but I ordered it differently and ranked it differently. These are not from best to least or anything like that. I just have 3 ways, and I'm just going to list them in. I feel this one is the most important personally, but number 1, get clear about your God or your higher power that you believe in. What do you believe in? Who do you believe in? And do you believe that God, that higher power, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, do you believe that higher power that you believe in is someone or something that requires you to be perfect, that requires you to do things, to commit actions in order to be deemed by your higher power as a good person, as a loyal servant, as a loyal follower? If you believe in that higher power, that kind of higher power, and you are content with that, all power to you. But if you feel like something about that doesn't connect with you, have that talk with yourself. What is the higher power I believe in? And am I happy believing in this higher power? When I was going through my born again phase, my born again Christian phase, I believed in a God that did not want me to be gay, or that did not want me to have sex with men, because doing that would be a sin. It would be a terrible thing for me to do. I could go to hell for that, or to purgatory, somewhere not good. And then when I took a leap and decided to have a boyfriend, and I then felt that there was nothing wrong with me, nothing wrong with it, I changed how I believed in the God that I believe in. And the God that I believe in today is not the same God that I believed in my late years of high school and early years of college. It's a different God. It was always God, but it's a different God. Because the God that I believed in left me feeling like I wasn't okay being who I was born as. Now, it gets tricky because then we think, well, if the God I used to believe in isn't the God I believe in today, is the God I believe in 20 years going to be the God is that going to be the God that I believe in today? Will it change again? And my advice to you is just go with the flow. Just go. Follow your #follow-your-bliss. Just go with it. Just feel what is the right thing for you. What is the right path for you? Ask yourselves that question. What is the God, the higher power I believe in? Who is it? How do I want to relate to this higher power? What is my worth and value in the light of this higher power? Like, how does my higher power see my worth and value? And whatever it is that comes to you, and you can meditate with this, just sit with it, go to the park, sit and breathe and just watch, like people watch the nature around you, look at it and just let yourself ponder this question in silence. What comes to you when you ask yourself these questions? So that's number one way to hopefully help you let go of self-comparison. Spiritual self-comparison is go to your center, go within first and ask yourself, get clear about the God or the higher power that you believe in and what that means for you regarding your spiritual self-worth and how that higher power sees you. Number two way to perhaps help you let go of self-comparison in your spirituality, mute or unfollow. This was going to be the good segue from 3 reasons we might be self-comparing, because the last thing I mentioned was being on social media and seeing people that seem to be happy, right? Well, this ties to that a bit. Mute or unfollow. Curate your social media feed. On Facebook, I think, but definitely on Instagram, and I'm sure on other social media platforms, you can keep following somebody but mute them so their stuff doesn't show up on your social media feed. And you can unfollow people or unfriend people, but don't do this if it's someone who's close to you, because I think if you just out of the blue just unfollow someone or block them, that can be, it's not a very respectful thing to do to someone you're close with. Muting is a little easier because you don't have to unfollow them. You just hide their stuff from your timeline or your social media feed. And why am I suggesting this? If seeing somebody's content makes you feel like you makes you want to keep comparing yourself to them, and it doesn't make you feel good to follow somebody, doesn't inspire you, because if someone's life and what they're posting about inspires you, that's different. And I would challenge yourself, number one, before you unfollow them or mute them, challenge yourself to see if you can get good out of it, if you can take something from it to help inspire you. If it's just a constant struggle and you just can't get to that place with yourself, mute them or unfollow them. Something that I've done, and this is a different subject, but with my body image issues, I really don't follow men that post mostly half-naked photos. Now, I love a good-looking man with a nice body, but for my own mental health and my own, just for my own sake, I don't follow magazine model looking men. Well, number one, I don't see the point to it. Like, why would I don't need to see it on my feed. There are other ways I can see that on the beach, in public, when a guy is running. Like, why do I want that on my feed? That's just me though. But more than the reason of me not seeing the reason to follow folks like that who post things like that, I really mostly don't follow those accounts, because if I keep seeing those images, it's going to trigger me back. It's going to make me, not make me, that's a strong word. It might get me to, I could easily backtrack in my progress if those images keep popping up for me. So I don't follow those kinds of accounts. So you are in charge of your social media feed and who you follow and who you pay close attention to, and do whatever it is that you need to do. Because look, some people think I'm ridiculous for not following hot guys on Instagram, or they think it's like odd. I've had some reactions from people in person, like, oh, you don't follow accounts like that? Like, oh, and they almost feel a little uncomfortable. And I'm like, yeah, I don't. So, and because I'm in charge of my social media feed, and that's what I don't want to see, and I have things that I want to see. So ask yourself, which social media accounts are the accounts that you want to elevate and see more in your feed, that you hopefully, that hopefully the algorithm will push to your feed. And what are accounts that just bring you down, or you just can't get over how you're comparing yourself to those people? Whether they be psychic mediums, shamans, whatever they may be. If you can't get to a place where you can feel inspired by those accounts, then maybe it's time to think about muting them or unfollowing them. And if anyone has an issue with that, like, people may think, oh, well, if something triggers you, then that's your trigger. That's your thing. It's not the social media influencer's fault. Now, that's true. Yes, we should own our triggers, and we should own when something, like, if no one's really doing anything to us, but we feel triggered by it, yes, we should own our triggers and take responsibility for them. But I think a part of that is knowing when to not expose ourselves to things, because we need to do the healing work in the meanwhile. And then maybe when we get to a place where we know we have self-worth and don't need to compare ourselves, we can refollow those accounts. That's fine. Just do what you need to do. It's nobody else's business, really. So that's number 2, mute or unfollow on social media. The third way, and the last way I'll suggest, as a way to help you let go of self-comparison, spiritual self-comparison. And folks who follow me will not be surprised by this suggestion. Talk with your inner child. Ask your inner child questions about happiness, about your happiness, about their happiness. When we want to compare ourselves to other people, whether their looks, their spirituality, their spiritual practice, how much money they have, let's go within a little bit. Let's go in. And number one, what part of you is feeling jealous or wants to compare yourself to those people? Sometimes it's the inner child, because that inner child is like, well, I want that too. I want that too. And maybe by talking with our inner child about that, we'll get insights about, okay, where did this desire to be like other people come from? Where did this desire where did this idea that we are less than someone else because they have that and I don't? And maybe there's a memory in your childhood or something you were told as a child that comes to mind for you, and your inner child will help you remember that. I do want to say, if this is something that's of interest to you, doing inner child work, it's something you can do on your own. I do recommend doing it with a mental health professional, with a therapist or a psychologist, and or a spiritual mentor. I highly suggest doing both. But if I had to choose between one or the other, and it's a matter of cost for you, a mental health professional, because it can be really helpful when you find a mental health professional who recognizes inner child work. My therapist introduced me to the idea of inner child work. And my spiritual mentor also introduced me to the idea. It kind of coincided with each other. Although my therapist has been talking to me about it for 3 years, and I was like, I don't know, doesn't make any sense, inner child work. And then when my spiritual mentor brought it up, I thought, oh, my therapist has mentioned that. Let me do this work, even though it's really uncomfortable. But yes, if this is an interesting topic to you, the inner child work, if you can go through this inner child healing work with a mental health professional. And if not, I'm sure there are a lot of books out there on this. There definitely are books on inner child healing work. So yeah, when you feel like you want to compare yourself, ask yourself, was there something in my childhood that made me feel this way? Was I taught by a parent, taught by a grandparent, taught by a guardian that I am worth less, or I am not as worthy of attention because I don't have this or I don't do this? And talk to your inner child about it. And the next time you get upset when you see someone on Instagram who seems to have it, quote unquote, better than you do, I know this may sound crazy to some of you, but ask your inner child, like, hey, why are you feeling upset? And then you'll probably get the response of, well, I want what they have. And then you ask your inner child, well, how do you know they're happy? If we have what they have, if we get what they have, will we be happy? And you'll probably feel like, yes, we will be happy. Then ask your inner child, well, what does it mean to you to be happy? Does having a lot of money mean happiness? Did you know, baby Juan, that we can have a lot of money and we could still be very unhappy? We could have a romantic partner, the hottest partner in the world, and we can still be unhappy? Because maybe they're not a good person, or maybe they're not considerate, or maybe we're not compatible with them, no matter how hot they are, how tall they are, whatever, fill in the blank. These are the kinds of conversations you could have with yourself if you're not comfortable with working with the inner child yet. But if you are comfortable with working with the inner child, I highly recommend doing it. Because this desire to self-compare, this tendency rather to self-compare, I do believe comes from things we were taught growing up and things we were told growing up, or things we watched on TV growing up that told us this is how the world works, so you should function the same way. Or this is how the world thinks, so expect to be criticized or expect to be praised. That's a biggie, this inner child work. This is a biggie. So it really is serious but beautiful, moving work. And I'm a true testament to that. I'm still doing it. I'm going to do it all my life. This is an all our lives kind of thing. I don't think I will ever, for example, body image and my self-esteem with body image, I don't think that's ever going to go away in my life. I hope it does. I pray it does. And I have to do the work to mitigate the effects of my body image dysmorphia on my head, on my mind. But it's likely that because I was brought up and I was raised with media that praised hot people that looked this way, quote unquote, that way, this way. It's like my brain was wired to that, and there's a lot of rewiring I have to do, and it's getting way easier. But I'm sure that there will continue to be things for the rest of my life that one little thing, some little thing can just trigger it all to come back. So it's a lifelong thing, but it's about it getting easier to not compare ourselves. It's not about erasing the struggle, as hard as it is to say that, because I wish we could just erase our struggles. But it's about it becoming easier to say to ourselves, yeah, they look like they're very happy, but this is also like a social media feed. So we really don't know a lot about them. Or, yeah, they're really rich. They have a nice house. Really nice house. And they look happy. I can also be happy and not have a big house. So, to recap, the 3 ways to help us spiritually self-compare. Less. Number 1, get clear with yourself about your higher power that you believe in, that you want to connect with, and how that higher power views you and values you. Number 2, mute or unfollow people on social media that just don't have a positive impact on you and your healing from self-comparison. Do what you got to do. It's no one's business. And then maybe go back to following them once you feel like you've healed a lot of that. Number 3, talk to your inner child. Communicate with it when you feel like you have the tendency or that desire to self-compare. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what was shared here. I think with social media and the more advanced social media technology gets, it seems like there are easier ways for us to compare ourselves to each other. And we really don't need that. We want to inspire each other, not compare ourselves to each other. So I hope this leaves you feeling empowered and that you feel inspired by this podcast to do some of that work within yourself to mitigate the self-comparison, because you owe it to yourself. So I leave you with that and with a beautiful, gorgeous day. See you soon. If you have a question or topic you want me to cover on Third Eyesight, head to my website, juanfranciscospirit.com/contact, and send a message my way. If you really enjoyed this episode, leave a review wherever you listen. I'd really appreciate it.